Hey there, rulers, DMO73 here as we continue our look into the ATD Wanderer support, and I am trying out Pirate Ship Rush Melgis thanks to the new regalia, and Paul is trying out the Let's Have a Picnic stuff with Carlina and Dante. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session. So as we get into it here, just a reminder that you can go get your pre-orders through Odyssey Games for Journey to Revidra, the second set of Evil Cluster, and in the boxes we'll have the box topper packs of Antechamber of the 10 Dimensions, cards that we are featuring here. Pirate Ship Melgis wrecking out the new Pirate Ship card from ATD as a nice rushdown option. Being a fire regalia means that it will be triggering the Alice Origins Melgis every single time we play it, so it's just really free value. And Paul trying out Carlina and Dante thanks to the new support for Carlina in the form of Let's Have a Picnic. So we'll see how this goes. Paul getting to use, things like Virgilius is back now with Dante. He can sit on Satan. You'll notice he does not have Satan revealed there until he decides he's not going to do anything left for the turn because it counts as an activate ability and only gets one per turn. Grandma Carlina's Essential Ingredients gets to come down here, so that is now live. Now he gets 2 things per turn, and ingredients can be used helpfully to search for Granny, which is really nice. Now we know that he has the ability to quickly go into Virgilius, so for that reason and the fact that we have a Light Lightning in hand, we are debating whether or not we're going to burn coin or our red-white source. We do decide to go into the pirate ship here, the Midnight Griffin. It is going to be unchaseable, and then on enter we'll generate 2 rogue tokens, as well as procking Melgis to let us either burn our opponent for 5, make a 7/1, get a stranger, or be able to judgment for free, since it is a fire regalia entering our side of the field. Most of the time this is going to be serving as the 7/1, but for these early turns, not really knowing much about what's going on in Paul's deck, right off the bat, we want to have some utility and keep our hand advantage maintained, at least for now. So I believe we're going to go ahead and make the getting a stranger happening. Seeing if Paul's going to respond to the enter effect of Midnight Griffin, or if he wants to try to respond with something like a Fossil Girl to stop it from being able to get the tokens. Does decide to go ahead and possibly let it resolve here. Generating a couple of 2/2 counters and getting a stranger. Utilizing the stranger mechanic, it's been a long time since we've utilized that. We have, let's see which one we get. Is going to be Healing Gimmick, so we're going to start that right away. It is a 0 cost, so we're going to go ahead and put that into the field. Banish it, draw a card, and gain 1,000 life. Just again, essentially turn a stranger into a card in the deck, which is very nice. From there, we're going to mobilize the pirate ship and then swing in for 6. And pirate ship, when it attacks, gets to then RFG, or if it deals battle damage to a player, RFG is the top card of my deck, and I can cast it as it gains the ability to be cast as long as it's there. In some ways, the God's Art of Dante can turn that off, but future ones that get RFG'd will gain that ability as a later timestamp, so they would be able to still be played. Before moving to my end phase, Paul's going to use Essential Ingredients to search for Carlina so that he does not miss the timing window for Let's Have a Picnic and gets Carlina into play. So now we're in a pretty good spot here. He has the ability to play 4 things per turn, which is more than enough. So we'll have to see. Also, you'll notice the pirate ship is still on field here, and then I just catch that because I only played it for 1 with its raid ability, it does go back to my hand at the end of the turn. But in many ways, that's what I want, because I want to keep re-triggering the Melgis. That's where kind of the rush element comes from. Paul's searching for Virgilius here, and then because he called Carlina as his starting ruler, we do have Return of Judgment as the extension rule, meaning that when he judgments Dante, he gets to just blow something up and draw a card for free. Vizjerei is coming down here, and this is why we saved that light lightning and why we didn't use the red-white to play the card and instead burned coin. We would not have been able to deal with that Vizjerei very easily. It would have been pretty problematic, especially since it has drain. It would have been something that eventually we just kind of run out of resources to be able to deal with, and being 1,000, it's kind of hard for us to deal anything to. Other than outside of like Replicant Shiva coming in here, which we can solarize, but we'd still have to hit one of our green sources. So Pirate Ship's gonna come down here again, just kind of continuing that trend here. We make our 2/2s, and then we're probably going to generate a 7, either burn him for 5. Oh, yep, we are gonna just go ahead and say, we'll just burn you for 5 here, Paul, and hit him for that. We'll swing in, mobilize, swing in for 6. Paul takes that damage, and we see a Daji get RFG'd. He is going to block the token that was already on field since the beginning of the turn with the Granny. Again, leaving one wheel open just in case there's another Vizjerei. We'll just pass and let Pirate Ship go back to my hand. After that, though, Paul's going to go ahead and search. Things with named abilities here, Pyromancer could be pretty good in this situation, because it could like get played, and then after I mobilize the Midnight Griffin, as long as it's been on field since the beginning of the turn, he can just kill it, which would be pretty good. Pyromancer also dodges Light Lightning, so he does have Pyromancer in hand here, so I'm curious if we're going to see if that get played or if he's going to go for a different line. Pyromancer would also be very good outside of just popping the pirate ships, to also then be able to pop all the pirate tokens that get generated. Though we are seeing a line here that looks like a second Judgment for Carlina. Probably going to go into a second Vizjerei here, so now they're both killed. Swings in for 10. Go to block with the token. Paul does want to leave open some will here just in case I walk into something like a Shiva, which makes a lot of sense. So he is just going to say, that's fine, I'll kill that and gain the 1,000 life back, thanks to the drain being provided. Now there is a world here too where, interestingly enough, where if I play another pirate ship after I mobilize it, we could see Paul here thinking about trying to use possibly a cancel on this Daji. What I was saying before about using the God's Art of Dante to then turn on Fallen to be able to have Bane, which would be nice. So Paul here recognizing that he's not going to cancel the Daji, but forgetting about how she, just in our conversation about how she works, instead of letting me mill to essentially undo his drain for the turn, he is going to Lorite her enter effect. But full tapped out here, which is a great spot for me to be in, especially if we hit a green source, but we don't. We hit a red-white stone, so no Replicant Shiva to try to clear off the field. That being said, we do have a Regalia Beast, which as it enters, I can call a color, and I can name it as a fire regalia, so then it will trigger Melgis, and then Midnight Griffin comes back as well. We're going to use that trigger from Melgis to burn the Lorite out of the way, getting our 2 tokens. You can see what I mean of just like constantly using the triggers of Melgis getting mad value. We're going to go ahead and attempt to mobilize and swing in for 6. Do have another Light Lightning in hand, thankfully. Hitting another Light Lightning here. We're going to block the token, and in response to the attempted block, we'll use Epiphanic Priests to pop the Granny, because she does have barrier, so we can deal 900 damage to her. Therefore hitting Paul for 2. Now, one thing that Paul could do here is use the Dante God's Art now, just to make it so that Light Lightning can't be cast. while I'm fully tapped out. That might be the best position for him to be in. He also is able to do Satan right now, but the problem is that going for the Satan token is really risky, because if there's another light lightning can just kill the token. And at that point in time, he just loses the game. So it's a little bit risky to go for that line. We're going to go in for I'm fully kind of, other than one red mana, tapped out at this point in time because of the Regalia Beast. We're trying to go for a Magic Stone Research Institute. I'm going to attempt to Fossil Girl, specifically the enter effect, but Paul says I'm holding priority on the cast of the Magic Stone Research Institute. 1 second. So just wait for a sec before I pass priority to you for you to be able to Fossil Girl it. It says, actually, no, we're good. You can go ahead and Fossil Girl the trigger of the Magic Stone Research Institute. I don't really care about the pump here necessarily. I do care more, just because I have the higher life total, I do care more about stopping him from being able to access ramp. Like, the more I can cut him off, the more free power I can have to just play a series of 1-drops. He is going to, as he moves to combat with the Virgil, use its ability once. It'll ping everything for 4 and me for 4, which will gain him 2,000 life back. And then I'm going to sacking the Dashi, so that's not hit there. But then also when he makes contact, he will gain another 16. So he'll take me down to 30 and go up to 53. If I had a Dashi now, that would be great, but I don't have any will to even cast it if I want to. But Paul, I feel pretty comfortable that Paul's kind of fully tapped out here, and Paul taking a very risky play of searching on this turn. Technically, before recovery on my turn, he's going to go ahead and search for Carlina. Decides that that's the play to make, so that at the end of the turn he can try to cheat it in. He would have had to do that during my turn before recovery because he was out of abilities. So I kind of just have a free turn at this point to go off. So the question is, can I try to find lethal this way? So we make the token, we make the 7/1. We get a little bit of shortcutty ahead of myself here. We meant to mobilize the ship before we played the Shiva, which you will see here in just a second, just a little bit backwards, so that the pirate ship gets the 3+1/+1 counters. So 10 from the first token that hits him for 9 with the pirate ship. I get another Dashi RFG, and then the 7/1 token will go away at the end of the turn. You'll catch that here in just a second. So Paul does have the granny in. Life totals are kind of going back and forth. Paul's up to being able to do 4 things a turn. He really, really wants to see if he can find a way to get rid of the light lightnings in some way. Because, if he could know for a fact that I have no light lightnings left, then the Satan ruler swap and God's Art could be very, very good. It would put him in a position where I'd be in top decking situation, staring down this thing that can kill me in 1 shot, and all of my ways to kind of get around it having Eternal would be kind of gone. But until that happens, he's in a position of having to be very, very respectful of what's on board and what's in the deck. He's only seen 2 of the light lightnings, and he does not know how many I play. So on the off chance that I play 3 or 4, he could be essentially kind of signing his own death warrant by going in for the Satan God's Art. Plays the Replicant Shiva. It's just going to get the tokens off the board, but it does serve as a nice eternal blocker. Swings in with Shiva. Or swings in with the Granny. We block with the Shiva, and in response to us declaring block, we're going to attempt to use Mechanized Blade Dragon to pump up the Shiva. Unfortunately, he has 1,000 Fractured Reflections, so they are just going to bounce off each other. Gets to gain a little bit more life, go back up to 43, but then passes the turn. And once again, it's a position of Paul only has 1 will. So we have a grip full of cards, lots of things that only do 1. We haven't seen a God's Art ability of Dante yet, so he can activate that this turn if he wants to. but in many ways we could just kind of respond to it. We're going to use the solarized statue from outside of the game to play a protuberant solarized whip. This is a fire regalia, so it will get to enter, draw, make a 7/1, draw 2, discard 1, and RFG the top card of my deck. So just getting rid of things that I don't need this turn, just to see what we get. Regalia Beast is another regalia, which is nice. You see there's a Bernovan in hand. Don't really need Gatekeeper at this point in time. Fossil Girl in the City gets thrown. We're going to try to swing in for 7. Just see if we can get him to block with the Shiva, or if we're just going to get that free damage in. But in many ways, we are also kind of trying to bait out him blocking as well. Does decide to block, he'll gain 14, because Daji will take advantage of the fact that he has been draining to put us in a much cleaner spot. So now we have a lot of will. We've got 4 stones, or 4 stones left to be able to do a lot of pieces of interaction and push for aggression here. Pirate Ship's going to come down. It's going to generate those 2 bodies and another 7/1. It's fully tapped out at this point, so we'll swing in for 7. Paul says, unfortunately, don't think there's anything much I can do. It looks like he has 3 Pyromancers in hand there, which is really rough. So it goes in for 3. We'll mobilize. And then before we attack with Midnight Griffin, we will gonna play Bernovan with Incarnate here. So the reason why I really like this card is because it makes every little thing, like I can pay 5 and gain more cards to keep the advantage value engine going. It's just really nice. It essentially makes hitting with the pirate ship a draw 2. So the first pirate ship RFG'd a Daji off the top. We're going to go ahead and play another pirate ship. It has Mythic, because raid is not once per turn. We're going to do the same thing. Generate 2 bodies and a 7/1. We'll hit him for 7. Takes him down to 28. Hit him for another 6. Takes him down to 22. And then at that point in time, we can play the Daji, which will have him, as long as we have a dragon, he'll take 19, go down to 3. And then we have so many ways in hand to be able to burn him to death. We'll just go ahead and play another Daji, because we know there's another dragon in there, so that will burn it off. And we find the lethal that way. Moving into game 2. Paul choosing to go first again here. Seeing that just turn 1 Granny come down. Hitting that Heat Ray off the top. Doing the same kind of thing of wanting to keep our Light Lightning more safe here, just in case. We're going to go in for Midnight Griffin, the pirate ship. Now, arguably what Paul could do here is, in response to the attempt of mobilize, or even in response to the generation of the token, he could use Granny's ability to put a +1/+1 counter on every resonator, so that Granny can block the token without having to die, which would be pretty good. Ultimately, though, we just got that full amount of value. We try to go for another Bernovan again. He's going to use his 1 ability for the turn for 1,000 Fractured Reflections to try to cancel it. I didn't pay 0. I paid 0 will for it, so that makes a lot of sense. The other reason why I like Bernovan is, like, again, that 7/1 token from Melgis is just going to go away at the end of the turn, and the mobilized token is a 2/2 that's already kind of tapped. So turning them into Bernovan just makes a lot more sense. Paul here choosing to go for the Pyromancer line here, which I think is much better for him. It makes it so if I can't answer that, there's really no consistent good way for me to even get swings with Pirate Ship. And if I only have 1 in hand, it's like, well, that doesn't really do much for me, because, you know, I just can't get the value off of it. I'll choose just to swing in here with the Granny, which I don't really understand, knowing that there's the Daji outside the game, because I'm essentially just going to undo his life gain and burn him for 5 anyway. So he'll take a grand total of 8 to go back down to 2,000. But does have Pyromancer active, and the reason why Pyromancer is nice is the pirate ship Griffin only has Aegis, and because Pyromancer will have been on the field since the start of the turn, he can use Pyromancer to pop the Resonator. The other reason why I think swinging with that Faria was maybe a mistake is because he could use Carlina as a second blocker to defend the Pyromancer if I tried to like swing into it after he tapped. But ultimately, I am actually, as the rush deck, just calling stone and passing and saying, hey, actually, we're good. We've got, some stuff to be able to set up here. I'd rather leave some will open. We'll see what you're going to do. Respond to that way and get to those situations where we can rush down while you're tapped out and be in a much better spot here. So we see that Dante Judgment. It's going to go ahead and pop the token. Popping the Daji doesn't make sense, really, because it would just let me draw 2, discard 1. I would just respond by popping it, so we might as well get rid of something. We do have another Light Lightning, though, so we are able to get rid of that Virgilius. Paul deciding how he wants to respond to this here. Sorry for the quick jump cut. We had to step away for a second, but we were back. So Paul choosing to, before it resolves, he's going to go ahead and use Carlina's ability. Remember, he gets 3 things per turn, and he's already used 1 with playing the Virgilius. He's going to put the extra +1/+1 counter on everything. And then he's going to pay a white to play Dark Alice Rabbit Princess as his last thing for turn. We're going to draw and sack the Virgilius, and then he also needs to draw and probably sack the Granny, because otherwise the Light Lightning gets to kill the Granny, because the mode we chose for Light Lightning was the get rid of something with Barrier or a Darkness Resonator. So this way the Light Lightning fizzles. And Paul drew into another Granny, so that gets to come back at the end of the turn, which is very nice for him. So Paul's doing pretty good here. At the end of the turn, we're going to go ahead and cast a Rogue Spectator. Needs something like a Fossil Girl, though, because he's at big risk of having a board get absolutely demolished by Replicant Shiva. If there's a green source, which there just is, hitting Magic Stone of Remnants. With him not having access to essential ingredients now, there is something to be said about just trying to shift to a burn strategy. You see there's a Daji in hand. And instead of trying to mobilize the pirate ship, just essentially using it as a thunder, right? Generate a burning him for 5 with Melgis, putting the 2 dudes on board, and then just coming back, letting it bounce back to hand. Essentially just becomes an unchaseable thunder at that point, unless you can trigger. Although we are going to try to grab a stranger this time. Hand's not super great. We'll see, maybe one of these strangers can be helpful, something like Barbados, to be able to rest down all J/Resonators and then start playing pirate ships again. The deck does also play Rachis as a 1 of, or 2 of. And we don't have to mobilize, so we can just say go. Paul tries to use the Pyromancer and we go, hey, it's not a Resonator right now. It's a Regalia. I didn't mobilize it. So it's just going to go back to my hand to be used again next turn. Carlina's going to pump everybody up, make them a little bit bigger. And take advantage of the activate ability window for the turn to go ahead and use Flip Over Satan. He can also tap and banish the Pyromancer. Not banish, tap the Pyromancer to get rid of the tokens. Can also get rid of the Spectator, but maybe we might be waiting for that. Hit 2 bodies versus 1. Stone of the Darkest Moon. Going for a Replicant Shiva with a Fossil Girl to try to stop her enter effect. We see a number 13 to stop that. We see a second Fossil Girl come in. So we're saying, look, you get the you're going to have the Shiva. It's not going to clear my board, and we want to force you to be tapped out as much as possible. Shiva then is going to go after the Daji, force me at that point in time to try to be removed. We'll just draw 2 and discard 1. Still in a good position here thanks to having multiple blockers and the Pyromancer. The only real risk here for Paul, though, is the fact that he's fully tapped out for my Shiva to come in and start doing some nonsense. Now, because we're full casting the Shiva, it won't be able to kill everything. It'll only actually be able to kill the Pyromancer, and he can respond by tapping the Pyromancer to destroy my Rogue Spectator and then banishing the Pyromancer to pop a stone. And we start to try to go for a Light Lightning, but that doesn't do anything to Replicant Shiva. We can use it to get rid of the Granny if we wanted, but ultimately it's like, I don't know why I'm doing that either. So we are just going to float red mana. And he starts to pick up the Dark Alice like it was killed by the Shiva. We both totally got confused here. This is an error on our part. Shiva wouldn't have been able to deal enough damage to the Dark Alice to kill her. She's only a 2/5. We're only doing the regular enter effect of Shiva, which is a problem here. It does kind of matter because then Paul crashes into the Carlina. And you'd have a blocker in the form of the Dark Alice to keep the Carlina around if he hadn't. So that's a little bit of an error on our part, so apologies. That being said, being fully tapped out and available for Replicant Shiva to just kind of clear the field is certainly something to be a little bit concerned about. Get the 3 extra counters. Then we use that floating red to play Pirate Ship, and we also kind of misconstrued our sequencing here. We could have played the Pirate Ship to make the tokens first, so then those tokens would have had 3 +1/+1 counters. We could have then mobilized before playing the swinging with the Shiva, so then the Pirate Ship would have had 3 +1/+1 counters, and that would have swung in for 9, taking Paul down to 13. As it stands, this is still a lot of damage, taking Paul down to 9. We lose the token, we lose the Pirate Ship. It would have taken Paul down to 3 if I had done it in a better sequence. Potentially even more. Potentially taking him down to 1 if he had ended up using the Carlina still to put a +1/+1 counter on her. Paul in a not great spot here. He's sitting at 10. He has no real way to life gain. In hand, he knows that I have essentially an unchaseable Thunder. He's out of automatic triggers. He starts to have a conversation here about flipping Carlina and going into a judgment of Virgil. The problem with this is that because lots of Let's Have a Picnic is not active, that only gives him 1 thing per turn, and so playing the Virgil is his 1 thing per turn, as opposed to if he stays as Carlina, he keeps the body, and then he gets an activate ability and a spell. It's still not great here. I don't really know if he has anything that's an activate ability in hand to be able to be used. If he had one more, if he has another Pyromancer, then if he plays the Pyromancer here, then he can activate the Pyromancer and play a spell like a number 13. It's probably overall better. It's still not a great position for him to be in, though, just given the fact that he's at such low life. He knows I have Pirate Ship in hand, and there's so many 1-cost ways to make a Regalia or just burn face that could get around the fact that he has blockers entirely. Midnight Griffin putting in a lot of work here, putting on the pressure to just say, hey, I don't really know if you're going to have the time. He does decide to go ahead and play the Virgilius, and then weirdly enough attacks with it. Looks like anyway, as opposed to leaving it up as a blocker. The tokens themselves aren't super concerning. The Shiva can get blocked by the Shiva. He can shoot the 7/1 that's generated if I go that route with Virgilius. He can block the Pirate Ship with Virgilius. The problem there is, again, then the 2/2 tokens, and if I have any more Regalia, then that's 900 is the problem. It's essentially a Thunder and 2 token swings, and we have lethal. It's a really bad spot for him to be in. Does decide to just pass the turn, which I think is correct. I think it gives him the best opportunity to at least try to stabilize. Swinging for 2. Hey, let's see if we can get you to use your 1 thing per turn. He does use the token pop, the Vizjerei activated ability to shoot it. So now he's got 2 blockers to my 2 attackers. We're going in with that Rachis Swordsman that we drew earlier, which is great to be able to tap down the Shiva. So now he only has 1 blocker. We'll swing the Shiva into the Vizjerei to kill it. We'll swing with the token for 5, takes him down to 4, and then end it with that unchaseable Thunder, thanks to the automatic ability of Melgis to close out the game. So there you guys have it. We'll have the deck profiles up for these lists later this week. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing me play another red deck, and until next time, this is DMO73 saying, class dismissed.